All right, so this is recording. I just wanted to do a blog post. Brittany's been blogging a bunch about the adoption along the way, and she's been writing on our blog. And we thought it might be good for me to do one. And since we thought it might actually be even a cool little element to do it via video like this, so just going to talk a little bit about my experience throughout the adoption process so far and where we're at right now with it. Brittany and I started talking adoption when we very first met. And we didn't really know how that would look in our lives or the exact route that we would take. And as we began to pray about it and pursue the different stages, doors just began opening, and we found a great agency that we've been working with, Christian Family Care Agency, that actually a couple other people at our church also had been through. As we were looking at that agency and trying to figure out if that was right for us, we ended up running into them, and they had really positive things to say about it. So we decided to continue on with that agency, and our experience has been wonderful. Part of what Christian Family Care has you do, well, I guess it all started with, we started a large paperwork process, and we filled out form after form after form, and then from that step we went into our class, and it's really cool. It's kind of a unique thing about Christian Family Care is you go through an 8-week class process, and you get to learn a lot of the different aspects and different angles, and I guess different perspectives would be the way of putting it. What the birth parent's going through throughout the process, obviously what we're going through, how the whole process works, some of the challenges associated with adopting, and also obviously some of the blessings that are associated with adopting, and really just to give us as adoptive parents a better understanding of what this journey will look like, so that we are better prepared for the adoption. The classes were wonderful. They were in Central Phoenix. Went down there once a week for a 2-month stretch and really learned a lot. I think the thing that I took away more than anything from the process was just attachment and bonding. I wasn't aware of the different ways that a child attaches and bonds with their parents, and some of the unique challenges or some of the things you need to be conscientious of as adoptive parents to help form that bonding and attachment with your adopted child, because they don't have that time in the womb where they're hearing your voice and getting accustomed to your smells and all of those sorts of things that a biological child would. So for the classes, that was something that I loved hearing about and felt like it really helped equip me. And then the second thing during the classes that I thought was really interesting is they spoke a lot on open adoption, as we're going to be doing an open adoption, and what that looks like, and the benefits that can have on the child, and helping the child be able to identify with themselves and better understand the process. There's Brittany there. And so that was really interesting. And along with that, they spoke a lot on how the birth parent and what the birth mother is going through, and the extreme grief and the tough decision and the selfless decision that they're making when they decide to place their child for adoption. And that also was extremely interesting to me about the classes, just learning that. And I think through gaining that perspective helped me to better empathize and with what that birth mother is going through, and the tough decision that they're making through that process. And then from there, we started our home studies. And our home studies, our caseworker, our social worker was a gal named Summer, who was just fantastic. She's been great to work with, and we weren't really sure what to expect going into them. We had heard the horror stories of that you get grilled, and they ask you every aspect of your marriage and this and that, and really they do. But Summer was so great in the way that she approached it. We felt completely comfortable that we could be open and honest with her, and that we were able to really express where we were at with our marriage, what we were struggling with, what we were excited about, and then she was able to give us some perspective on maybe some things that we could work on heading into the adoption itself. And that whole experience, we just wrapped that up today. This is kind of what prompted the video blog, is that we just finished our last home study this morning. And one of the things that we did that was pretty interesting is we took a pretty extensive personality test, Taylor Johnson test, and we not only rated ourselves throughout the different things, but we rated each other. So it was very interesting to see where we agreed with one another, which for the most part, interestingly enough, we pretty much put for ourselves what the other person put for ourselves. So we were pretty, actually, I guess somewhat, if you want to say, in tune with with identifying some of the personality traits of each other, which was pretty interesting to look at. So that process wrapped up, and now we're moving into the final stage of the adoption, which is will be presented before the agency's board, and then hopefully middle of next month. Right now I'm doing this on December 31st, 2010. On January 13th, we'll go before the board, and hopefully they will deem that we are suited to be able to adopt, and we're ready for the process. And at that point, we'll go into the match book, and then it's just we'll be waiting to see who the Lord brings, what child the Lord brings into our lives, and we just couldn't be more excited. We have the nursery ready for the most part, other than a couple of things, and me personally, from my perspective, I just couldn't be more excited. I know this is adoption, something that hasn't been an afterthought for me or a second option by any means. This is something that the Lord's been calling me to since high school, since I went to Romania, and through that experience, just really just softened my heart for the child that we're going to have in our family. And I know Brittany and I just couldn't be more excited. It seemed like a pretty long process, but we've just taken it in steps and just trusted the Lord to open the doors as they needed to be opened. And so far, it's been so faithful and provided every step of the way for us. And if you're our child watching this someday, we could not be more excited. We could not be more excited, though, to have you in our life, and we know how much joy you're going to bring to our family. So
I was going to ask you.
That's about it. Oh, Brittany's going to ask me some questions.
What would you say, since I think a lot of women and wives are open to adopting and desire to adopt, but I think from what I've heard and read, a lot of times it's the husbands that are the ones that don't feel as compelled or don't really have the desire to adopt, and like, how would you address that from your perspective?
The question, I don't know if you'll be able to hear it on this because Brittany's kind of behind the computer, but she said it's in her experience, it kind of seems like more women are open towards adopting, and a lot of times it tends to be the husband or the man that's not as open. I think a lot of that stems from is the protective nature of us as men and as husbands. We want to protect our family, protect our children. And I think there's a lot of variables that go into an adoption process, and I think a lot of those unknowns may seem a little bit scary from the man's perspective, and especially an open adoption. I know a lot of men think, well, what if that birth parent isn't good for our child to be having a relationship with that, or I want to protect our child from a birth parent who's maybe unhealthy emotionally or whatnot. I would just say, I think that it's something, I wouldn't go as far as to say that I think adoption is something that every single person must be doing in the sense of that everyone needs to be adopting. But I really do think that it's something that's worth praying about, because I think that if you allow the Lord to soften your heart on it and really think on it, I think we all need to be involved to some extent and on some level with adoptions throughout the world and here statewide and nationally, because there is such a need, and I just don't think people are really that aware of the amount of children out there that really need a loving home and deserve a loving home. I think a lot of people just don't ever see that. Maybe some men just don't ever see that as part of their plan when they envision their future as they're getting married and whatnot. So it's not something they really ponder that maybe that extensively. But I think it's something that if really you think about and pray about, I really think the Lord will find a role for you in the in adoptions just in general, whether that be that you're adopting personally or you're helping fund an adoption agency or whatever that may be in the process. I think that we all need to be doing our part. And I think that the more exposure people have, I think in America, people just in general don't have the exposure to children in need firsthand. And I know for me personally, once I saw children in need firsthand up close, it's really heartbreaking, and it makes you realize that, at least for me, it made me realize that this was not an optional thing. This is something that once you're exposed to it, is something you really need to be a part of. So I would just say the biggest thing is just to pray about it if you're not really feeling like it's something you're called to, because I personally think if you're really seeking the Lord, like I said, He'll put something on your heart, whatever that role is with adoption. There will be something I think that you'll feel compelled to participate in. Yeah, I think it's more just the unknown. A lot of people don't know anyone that's adopted, or they don't have any family
And now
members that have
kind of
adopted.
wrapping up the whole process, now really all we have to do is wait. How have you would you like what were some of like the biggest struggles through the process for you?
Brittany's saying now we're kind of finishing up the process. What have been the biggest struggles? I really think for me, just because I'm a little bit more of a type A planning type person, there with the adoption process there are so many variables. There's so many situations, so many aspects of the process that are completely out of your control. And I think that's a lot of what they talked about in our classes is just being flexible and understanding the amount of unknown that does just kind of accompany the process inevitably. So you have to approach it with a mindset of I'm going to be flexible. And for me, that was the most difficult at first because I wanted to know, okay, well, when will we have a child? When will we have and there's not a date, there's not an answer that's a date for that. It's just you go about the process in this way, and then a lot of the things are just as they come. So that's kind of been the biggest challenge for me because we're so excited to bring our child home that sometimes the waiting in general is sometimes a tough thing for me, but especially on something that we're this excited about and anticipating this much.
And I'm going to pop in here. Let's see, where am I? And I just want to, whoever has been keeping up on our blog or is watching this, mostly family, I'm guessing, friends, I just want to thank you guys so much just for your support and your prayers. It's truly amazing what they've done for us, and we know that us going through this is really pleasing to God. I mean, He's opened up so many doors. We're just so grateful for that. So, of course, now it's the waiting, which I think it's going to be the hardest. So just continue to pray for our child, our birth mom, our birth parents, and just all the components in the adoption. There's a lot of unknowns, and we just are just trusting God that He has a plan for us, for this process, for our future children. We're just so grateful to have you guys as friends and family. So we love you, and thanks for everything. We hope we get to talk to you guys soon, and hopefully in the next few months, 6 months, whenever, we'll have some exciting news to share with you. So we love you guys.
Bye.